So, good afternoon. Welcome to session 25. Can't believe we're at 25 already of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. And today we're going to cover a very important topic with anyone of any difference or who's got any issues around any sort of health issues, whether they're neurodiverse or not. We're talking about the workplace environment and reasonable accommodations. What is that about? So the workplace environment is obviously where you work. If you work in an office or a factory, there are people on the spectrum who have certain sensitivities to certain issues. That might be light, it might be noise, it might be smells, it might be the texture of the carpet or things of that nature. And they can, if someone on the spectrum is working in an area that is too bright for them and they're ultra sensitive to bright light, it can be very uncomfortable for them, and it can cause them to be agitated or even potentially go into a meltdown because the bright lights. Bright lights is one of my triggers, and also is noise. Noise is really a hard concept for some people to grasp, because it doesn't have to be a loud noise. You might be sitting next to someone who types away quite loudly on their keyboard, but that clickety 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 clickety, that repetitive repeating noise can be really difficult for some people on the spectrum, as well as loud noises like doors banging, fire alarms. Fire alarms really get, I know they're meant to do a job and they're meant to warn you that there's a hazard, but fire alarms they're just too loud for me. And so we find ourselves in situations where if we don't get some kind of reasonable accommodations, we will struggle with being able to work, and we won't work productively. We might have to go and take a walk outside to get away from the noise or the light, and all of these things can be disruptive to the person, which then affects how effective they are at work, whether how productive they are. But it can lead to people being off work. If you're continually bombarded with loud noise or bright lights and it's just too much for you, it's overwhelming, you're going to be off sick. And so this is where your employer needs to make adjustments for you. They're called reasonable adjustments in the UK. And that might mean, what are you particularly sensitive to? So it could be, as I say, noise or light, in which case, is there somewhere in the office or the place where you work where they can take out the strip lighting and put angle point lights or lower intensity lights at a desk level rather than way up in the ceiling? Is there a quieter place? Is that place away from the window, or does the window have blinds that you can pull down to take away the bright lights? Is that quiet? Is it not next to a loud machine or a printer? Noisy machines can be triggers. So all of these little things can add up to being difficult for people on the spectrum. And I'm getting some interesting chat from Will and Barbara there. I'll come to that in a little while. And it really does impact the person on the spectrum who is trying to work and trying to be productive, trying to be efficient and effective. And it's a real struggle. So if you can find a quieter place without the noise, without the bright lights, then they're going to work more efficiently, and it's going to be better for them, and then the team works better and everyone is more productive. But there are little things that the employee can do as well, and have a conversation with their employer. It might be that certain smells can be triggers as well. Like, if your door is right next to the corridor that leads to the canteen, the triggers for the smells, or someone with strong perfume or strong aftershave on, can really set someone off. But some of the things that you can do with self-management to help you is to agree with your employer. Look, I struggle being at a computer for more than an hour at a time, so I'd like to just stand up and have a 5 or 10 minute walk around the office, or go and do something else for 5 minutes, just to take my concentration away from always being on the screen. Or it may be that you would want to just go and have a walk outside to calm down, to chill and relax, so that you can come back to work more productive. And so have a conversation with your employer saying, you have these issues, they're challenges that I can overcome, that we can overcome together.
if you can just accept that I might do things slightly differently and have to go for a walk or go to our safe space, which is a topic that we've discussed before on an earlier session. And these little things can make such a difference to someone on the spectrum who is wanting to be at work and want to be productive. But there are little things that you can do, like to help you at work to understand instructions and guidance. That would be to make checklists and make lists and repeat back what someone has said to you. Okay, you've just asked me this. I want to make sure that I understand you right. You want me to do this, this, and this. And then try and get that in writing from the person that has given you the instruction. If they don't, make your own notes and then send them a memo or an email. We had a meeting, we had a chat earlier on today. You've asked me to do this, this, and this in order to deliver this project or this piece of work that you want me to do. This is what I'm going to do. Have I understood your instructions correctly? And so these things are really important. So making lists is important, prioritizing those lists so that you can then only focus, that you're focusing on the one thing you're doing. It might be fine having 5 or 6 things on your list, but to get distracted by, oh no, I've got this and I've got that and I've got that. If you've got a priority, try and get dates by which these things can be done by, so that you do the most urgent work first and you concentrate on that and you focus on that, so that you're not distracted by, I've still got other things on my list. You know that, you've prioritized them, work on the thing that is your top priority and give that your focus. You might be someone who, there's someone who comes on the calls from time to time, Sam Warner. She's a grazer. She doesn't like a whole hour long for lunch. And so some people might think, well, I want 2 shorter breaks. I want a half hour at 10 o'clock and half hour at 3 o'clock. Or you might be a 3 20 minutes or 4/4 of an hour. Those are things that you can easily manage and organize with your employer without making a great fuss, but just say, look, I'd rather not have a whole hour for my lunch. Let me have 2 half hours. It's still the same time. I'm still at work, still being productive, and it helps me and it helps my digestive system and it keeps me topped up. You might be diabetic, for example, and you need to have regular food from time to time. And so these little things can make all the difference between someone being able to work productively and thinking, I just can't cope. I have to be off work because I can't cope. You get a sick line from your doctor and you're then stuck in a situation where you're not working, the company is without you, so that there's certain work isn't done. So all of these things can add to, you want to make things as comfortable as you can for you and for your employer, so that they understand why you need to do certain things. We'll just have a quick look what we've got. Some people might like to have stress balls. I've got one here. Where is it? Where is it? I had it here. I had it in my hand a minute ago. It's disappeared. There we go. I have a friend in Canada and she sent me this little stress ball. It's just something that every now and then I can squeeze. It's actually got pictures of giraffes on it in leather, and it's a gorgeous little thing. But just having that comfort, that sensation to take your mind away from the stress of what's going on, rather than having to leave the office and come back. But if that's what you need to do, then so be it. And have these arrangements with your employer. Let's see, what else have I got down here? I've got a whole page full of things, but they all revolve around accommodations and agreeing things with your employer that can make work better for you. So have your lists, have your checklists, confirm instructions, repeat back instructions that you get. And these things will help you work better and more efficiently. So I'm going to throw the table open, the room open to people on the call today, and ask them what sort of triggers that you have, minor bright lights and noise, what sort of triggers you have, how you've managed to deal with that, and have you managed to get accommodations from your employers so that they understand. I mean, it's just like, you wouldn't expect someone in a wheelchair to have to fight their way up a set of steps to get into the front door of the building. You would expect the employer to think, okay, we've got steps at the front of the building, let's have a ramp so that someone in a wheelchair can gain access to work and come to work and be productive. It's exactly the same as someone who injures their back and they need a supportive chair for their back. Okay, it might cost the company a couple of £100, but what's the difference? It's having someone not able to work for 3 months because they've got a sore back and they can't sit in the chair that they've got, or the company investing £200 in a chair that is supportive, that allow them to be at work. It's a no-brainer, really, what you should do.
So all of these little things help people be at work, be productive. So I'm going to open up the floor to see if anyone has examples of triggers that they've had, how they've coped with them, and what they've dealt with in terms of employers, and how they've helped you be more efficient at work. Has anyone got an example they want to share?
I think that when you're working in an office with other people, in a simplistic way, other people can trigger you, whether it's people chatting in the morning, whistling. People come into the office and whistle. That's like a stab. That's the same similar feeling to being stabbed for me. Then there's light, highlight. No, but in the office where I am, we can close the blinds. Whistling and chatting is slightly more difficult. I have had many arguments with people who will say, "Oh, David's in a bad mood today," but not necessarily a bad mood, but just the way it comes across if I slam the door or something. So, and the other one, which is you can do something about, I think, either, well, ideally within a company, is organization of your work, because I like to I have a certain organization through the day, and quite often people will come and disrupt that because they have a particular priority of their own, but they don't realize that your priority is following the same aims, but you need to get a certain job done by lunchtime, and they come in because there's another priority which isn't necessarily urgent for that day, but they want it done because they want to tick off their thoughts to say to a higher management level that they finished that, and they need your help to do it. So people will come and sometimes will come and just start a conversation with me about something when I'm really trying to concentrate on something else. So that can be difficult. I think if scheduling in things, trying to schedule, saying, when are you free, or there's a way to approach things, I think.
There are one of my bugbears was when I worked as a geologist was you're working for someone, they know you've got a full week, so you're cracking on with what you're doing, and then they suddenly realize they need an answer to a question, so they'll come and pester you. They'll come and stand in front of your desk and go, "I need to know this now." Well, so what? I know you need. Why do you need to know this now? Why haven't you planned what you need to know so that I can carry on with my work? You've disrupted me from what I'm doing. It's going to take me a while to get back into my train of thought. And actually, most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, if they'd thought about what they were asking, they could have found out from the files or from the information in the filing cabinets or in the project files. They could have found out the answer to what their question, probably themselves, probably 95% of the time. But they just thought, I've got to know this because I'm in the middle of writing a letter or writing a report, or I need to know this now. So they come and ask you, and it disrupts you. And people don't realize that disruption can be very, very annoying. And it can cause you to perhaps be more vocal than you would be. You say, "What do you want?" But if it's one of your superiors, you've got to be very careful. And I fell foul of them from time to time, because they just would come and stand in front of my desk and ask questions about the project that I'm working on for them. I'm working on it for them, and yet they're not giving me the respect and the understanding that I'm doing the work for them, but they keep interrupting me, asking me questions. We should have They should think about it a little more and maybe just make some notes. And then afternoon tea break, say, right, he won't be as disruptive, he won't be as attentive on his work because he's having his tea break. I'll go and ask him then some of these questions that you had during the day. That way I might be able to help them with the answers, and it's not disrupting me from what I'm doing, and I can then go back to what I'm doing without hassle. So those things, those little things can make all the difference between being happy, calm, and relaxed and productive, and actually feeling that you're on edge because someone's walking by. Are they going to stop? Is he going to ask me another question again today? When actually the answer is in the file, and they don't appreciate quite how significant being interrupted like that is. And one of the points you said at the beginning there, Damien, was chit chat and things. I absolutely detested with a vengeance people coming in the morning, being all noisy and talking about what was on EastEnders last night, or the football, or anything, other topic, when actually they're disrupting me because I was usually in early, and they're not focused on what they should be doing, which is getting their coat off, going to their desk, turning on their computer and doing work. That's what they're here for. If they want to have a chit chat about what was on Coronation Street and EastEnders and the football, go and talk about it at lunchtime in the pub, or have a conversation after work. But you're disrupting me from doing my work. And I'm working for you. Let's not forget, I'm working for you. You're my supervisor in this. You're my line manager. You know, if you're disrupting me at the end of the week, you're going to say, is that done yet? Well, no, it's not done, because you interrupted me 23 times this week to ask me irrelevant questions. That's when they don't like it. They will get really obnoxious, really irate. They'll then speak to their superiors, and you're deemed to be the problem, when actually they haven't managed their time, their information correctly, but you're the one who gets dumped on. And it's so difficult to get across to them that when you're working, you need to focus, and you're working, and you can be very productive when you're working. I read an article that I've got on my desk here that says that properly supported in the right environment at work, people with autism can be 140% more productive than a neurotypical person, which is, you know, support us, give us the tools, let us get on with it, and we can do great work, and we can be more efficient than the person I'm sitting next to. So all of these little things can make such a difference. And I was going to, William, you've been typing away there on the chat there. Is there anything you wanted to add to what we're talking about? Okay, understand. Gotcha. Sorry, my apologies. I should have realized. So Will was talking about people talking noisily, chewing noisily when they eat, and yeah, people having conversations when you're watching television. Oh, that gets me in. That just, okay, I'm relaxing, I'm not watching television, but I like to watch the program rather than someone trying to have a conversation with me when I'm watching the program. So those are some of the difficulties I have. Let's see what else I had on my list. Some of the things that can help me is, rather than having a big long email or a big long memo on what someone wants me to do, why not break it up with some visuals, have a drawing, have a plan, have a mind map, or maybe just do some short videos of the 3 or 4 points that you want to cover. That's much better for me than having to fight my way through a 10-page memo or a briefing document. I'd much rather have a link to an email that's 2 or 3 emails that that I can then look at the links and see what's going on, see the visual of what the video that someone was asking for. That's much easier for me to see than trying to work my way through this great long email that someone has spent a lot of time doing, but it doesn't help me very much when I need short, succinct instructions. Do this, bullet point, outcome.
Yeah.
Deadline.
Let me put it this way, Andrew, I think I'm a software engineer, because that's how I think. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yep.
And I was trying to share that I often try to help people with the interruptions by like creating a wiki, or I'll say, you know, there's this doc that I put out there on one of the storage devices. I can just send you the link.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, interruptions. I often say I'm like a microprocessor, non-maskable interrupt. Don't interrupt me. I'm in the middle of something. And, you know, unfortunately, people tend to they take that as rude. And I'm like, no, I'm just busy and I don't need any, you know, I'm focused on the, they said, you're like a Borg drone from Star Trek. You're focused on the task at hand. And then in the morning, I say hello, and I can do the pleasant conversation. And then if the person doesn't take the hint, I'll be rude. I mean, I'm not trying to be. But what I'll do, Andrew, is I'll say, okay, 5 minutes of pleasant, engaging conversation and banter over, time to begin the work cycle. And, you know, people are looking at me like, what's gotten into Will, you know, or what's eating him? But it seems to work. I come off as eccentric, but kind of to the point, or sometimes a little blunt.
Yeah, I completely get that. And the thing that annoys me about that is you're then deemed to be the problem because they're trying to interrupt you by talking about something that's irrelevant. But you're the problem because you've said, do you know, guys, I really need to focus on what I'm doing here. Can you save it? Can you have the conversation somewhere else? Or actually, why not get back to your work? You know, and I never was able to get through to my colleagues when I was a geologist that you are interrupting me and that is not good for me. It's not good for my productivity. It's not good for my state of mind. And I never really got through to them. It was just seen as, God, you heard that? Do you know what Andrew did this morning? That he went and had a go at someone because they were talking to him about something. It was on the telly last night, rather than actually, do you realize that that person was interrupting Andrew and he shouldn't be doing it? No, it was always, I was the problem. I was the problem. And their solution for that was to overlook me for promotions. It was to give me the grottier jobs to do and things like that. That I didn't deserve. I mean, I know we all have to do the grotty jobs from time to time. I'm not after any favors and special treatment, but when you get all the grotty jobs working for the person who is least approachable and more abrasive to work for, then you realize that something eventually is up, that you're getting the wrong end of the stick, and it's so frustrating. I ended up leaving and going freelance so that I could pick and choose who I worked for. And if I was working for someone and it didn't work out, I'd say, I'm going to go at the end of next week, and that's it. And they'd think, oh no, there's nothing they can do. You know, I didn't tend to do that. I did tend to stick it out, but I had that option of being able to say, do you know, this isn't working for me. I'd like to finish by the end of next week. And because if it was the other way around, it would be, you've got 10 minutes to clear your desk, you're off. And they would finish you there and then. Because I've seen people, freelance people, contract people working for us who have literally been shown the door. We've finished with you now. Give us all the information. Time for you to go. We'll sign your timesheet, and that's it. So it happens in that industry. It probably happens in other industries, and it's just one of those things. So sometimes you have to vote with your feet, but I'm getting off track from what I'm saying. But there are things that you can do to help yourself, and there are things that you can do with your employer to help you be more efficient and productive at work. And it's about having that conversation with your employer. And you have to have it,
and the employer's open to it, Andrew, because you know some employers are like, just suck it up, or just deal with it. And
yep.
I've had that at several tech companies. The one I'm working for now, I mean, they have a well-being benefit. You can buy, like, I got a gaming chair because I'm sitting down all the time, but they're very accommodating. And you just have to communicate. But sometimes the hard part is I have sometimes a hard time communicating. I mean, I think it's just that I say what's on my mind, but I don't choose the right way to express it. But the employer sometimes is just deal with it, or they're dismissive. Yep. There's no sense of meeting you halfway. And
yep.
So and when I was at HP, for example, I complained about the fluorescence. They had 5 freaking fluorescent lights over my cubicle, and it wasn't until I told one of the 3 managers, there's nothing more fun than having several managers.
Yep.
As I told them, I'm just going to go and buy an Army surplus tent and erect it in my cubicle because those fluorescents are driving me crazy. And then finally they sent a maintenance guy, and they disconnected 4 of them, but still I hear that popping and that hissing. Yep. And yep. They're like, oh, I don't hear anything. And I'm like, well, you're not me. So, eventually yep. It burned out, and I didn't report it for maintenance. So it was like my cube, everyone called it the shadow cube, where all the computers were. And I was one of the more efficient guys, but I was considered very eccentric, like hiding in the shadows, or like Dracula. That was my nickname, Dracula. And I took it in stride because I'm a fan of, the Dracula horror movies. But yeah, you wind up getting labeled like you're just a complainer or a whiner. And it's like, no, there are some issues. Yeah. Sometimes they just don't get it. And I can understand why you say vote with your feet. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the issues that I had was sometimes in trying to communicate this to the company that you worked for, the problem person was your supervisor, the very person that you should be talking to say, can we do this? Can we do this? And can we look at this doing this way? Is the stumbling block. They are the person that is causing you the most hassle and the most angst at work. So they are usually they are the most unapproachable people. I know one of them that I used to work for, he just was not a man manager. He may not have been trained. So there is a part of the company that may not have, that may not have taken responsibility for training them, but because after you get to a certain level of service, you're deemed to be able to manage people, which might be the case, might not be the case. If you're not very good at managing people, you should be trained. So some of his reasons could be that he wasn't trained, but some of them were that he was just difficult to get on with. And I remember not long after I joined, one of my colleagues about the same level as me was having a conversation with him, and they got into an argument, and he said, "I don't care, just do it." And where's the compassion? Where's the, you've got a problem, let's see how we can resolve it so that we can move this forward? I don't care, just do it. Barbara, you've got your hand up. Is there something you wanted to comment on?
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, because I see I'm the only woman here today, and I know that women, we have a different way to cope with the thing. And what I wanted to ask is, because I didn't have the chance William had, that he could work and being efficient and somehow manage to have what he needed to feel good. Actually, I had to adapt myself, right? I've been a flight attendant for 20 years and mostly working on private, but still I had to work often with other people as a, crew. And the amount of effort I had to do with noise, because imagine to be in a plane, you have this zzz all the time, you have smells, you have a bunch of things. My nose, it's so fine that I can smell anything from very far, and I can hear everything from far. So it means I try to work and like I try to how you say that, just to stop the senses that I could work and concentrating in something else. But what happened after such a long time that now I have panic attacks. Unfortunately, and not only panic attacks, because I didn't want it to say, so I was fighting with this since 2003, and my panic attack began to get bigger, and now it's agoraphobia and claustrophobia. I can't imagine. For me, it's horrible. And when I have these panic attacks, I get like catatonic. I'm just like, frozen and sweating. And what I wanted to ask, if any one of you under stress or because of the situation or because he was not understood or everything, had also this kind of problem, because unfortunately this is my grave right now. I'm dying inside, because I used to be free, I used to travel around, and now I can't even move from home, so it's very difficult.
Yes, I had similar situations, but before I knew I had Asperger's, although I always knew I was different. In one particular company, I would get so stressed, absolutely so stressed out, that I just couldn't function, and I had to get away from my immediate area, my desk, and I would gravitate to the. We had a stationary office, and a maintenance man used to sit in the stationary office, and I would gravitate to there. And I would sit and I would have a conversation with him, not because I wanted to talk to him, but because the conversation was distracting me from getting overwhelmed and overloaded from being where I was at my desk. And so I might talk to him for 5 or 10 minutes, get a pile of stationery and come back to my desk. So that was my way of finding a somewhere safe that I could get away from what I was doing, and just having a chat with Campbell about a couple of things, pick up some stationery and go back. So I really did struggle with that, and I think one of the things that Will said on the chat earlier was, or it may have been Barbara, I used to bite my nails really badly, and I mean really badly. They would be at any one time there would be 2 or 3 nails that would be bleeding at any one time, all of the time, and I just got so stressed. I just really couldn't cope. And now, since I've got my diagnosis, I've actually been able to, and I've got presentable fingernails now for the first time I'm 58. So I've spent the first nearly 50 years of my life without fingernails. So because the stress, I would just literally put my finger in my mouth and rip the nail off, rip the whole top of the nail off, and right down the side until they bled. And it was just a reaction to stress. And I would panic. I would definitely be in a situation where I would panic. I would not know how to deal with it. I would lash out. I would lash out verbally, and then again, it was my fault. I was the one who was. I was the trigger point. I wasn't the symptom. I was the symptom. I wasn't the cause, or which way around. I forgot that. But you know what I mean. And so, really stressful situations, I would panic, and on occasion I would literally just leave the building and just go for a walk, stand outside, or just go for a walk around the block, and then come back, or go to the toilet. I might stay in the toilet for 5 or 10 minutes just to splash my face, calm down, regroup, and then go back to work. So was very stressful. Yeah. Barbara, yes, you wanted to ask about meltdowns? Sorry, Will.
No, I was going to say, I don't have apparently in this Zoom, I've got this is my personal computer, not my company computer. So I don't have the raise hand feature.
That's quite all right.
But I was going to share that I don't like air travel because it's not, statistically, it's the safest way to travel. So that's not the problem. The problem is when the plane starts up, they pressurize the cabin and my ears feel like ice picks are in it or a caliper on my head. And the way I cope is I'll breathe a lot. I'll do these really, it's almost like a kind of conscious meditation, and that helps. Just the breathing. Airports, all the signs, all the people that just suddenly cut across your path. But again, the coping skill for me is sometimes to be so focused on something. I use that hyper focus ability that we Aspies and autistic individuals have. But yeah, I can relate to. Please excuse me, I forget your name, but I'm not trying to, and I don't want to be rude.
It's Barbara.
But yeah, Barbara, okay. And yeah, it is a stressor and overload, but sometimes I'll even just do from a Doctor Who, I don't remember the episode, but it was focus, just focus, one of the first time I really knew that air travel wasn't for me was when I was young and we were one of those turboprop planes and my feet are on the floor of the cabin, but I could feel they're out of sync. The engines are not, so I could feel these two vibrations. And it was finally I was sitting, cross-legged. My mom's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, she goes, "Are you afraid of flying?" I just usually let it go. I'm phobia of flying when actually I'm not, because they'll see me clamp the hand rests or, I take a cup after I'm drinking and crushing it. And they're like, "Are you?" And I've said, "I'm okay. I just, but yeah, so I can relate to Barbara in that.
It's quite strange. I love flying. The only problem I have with flying is my back. I damaged my back many years ago twice, and sitting down for a long time in one of those chairs is incredibly uncomfortable. So I would get up and walk up and down the aisle from time to time. But but I love flying. Airports are a very interesting thing because I, as you say, Will, it's absolutely focused. Right. Look at the board. Check-in desk 23. Right, go to check-in desk 23. After check-in desk 23, it's go to the security. We know where that is. Then it's go to gate so-and-so. So it was a series of, I used to break it down into a series of small procedures. This point, success, do that, get my ticket, right? Go to security, go through that, done. Find the gate, go through that. And so I rather than one massive, great thing to deal with, I break things down into smaller components, just like I do when I'm working. Break things down into smaller components so that I can cope with it better. But yeah, airports, groups of large people always get me. We maybe have a conversation about that in another session. But we are rapidly running out of time for today's session. So if anyone has any last comments or questions, we can quickly cover one. If anyone has anything they wanted to add. No? Okay, that's great. So I'm going to you're typing away furiously there. That's okay. It's okay. It's good to have you on board. So yeah, we literally are running out of time. So I'm going to turn off the recording